Up to now, the stories I've shared with you were born from ancient pacts, from whispered legends and fears hidden in the folds of folklore. These were secrets guarded by communities, by families, by traditions. But there's another kind of secret, a more modern, colder, and perhaps more relentless type, the corporate secret. Large industries, in their incessant search for resources, dig deeper than any explorer, map territories no government knows, and sometimes they find things that weren't on geological maps, anomalies that defy science and common sense. And when that happens, the protocol isn't superstition or prayer. It's a confidentiality agreement, a mass dismissal, a fabricated bankruptcy, silence bought with money and fear. When a man loses everything, he becomes capable of anything. But when that same man finds a new reason to live, a new purpose, he becomes even more dangerous. Because now, he has something to lose again. In the last part of our report, we left Ethan, the hardened smuggler, bleeding and unconscious in the snow, and Ivy, the 14-year-old immune girl, humanity's only hope, alone, facing a brutal winter and a world that shows no mercy to the weak. Many would think this would be the end of the journey, but the records I found, the fragments of Ivy's diary, tell a different story. They tell the story of how a frightened girl became a hunter, and how love, in a destroyed world, can be both the greatest salvation and the most terrible of sins. Good evening, or good morning. I am the Unseen Archivist. Welcome back to the conclusion of our Cordyceps report. Today, we will narrate the second half of this epic journey, the search for the cure, and the unimaginable price it demanded. We will discover what happened to Ivy and Ethan in the heart of winter, and we will confront the final question. To save the world, is it worth sacrificing your own soul? And before we delve into this final chapter, if you were with us in part 1 and need to know how this story ends, leave your like to show that you are still on the journey. And if this is your first time, subscribe to the Unseen Archivist channel and hit the bell, because the story we are about to conclude today is one of the most powerful accounts of human nature I have ever encountered. Let's go back to the snow. Ivy's diary describes the winter in the Scottish Highlands as a white and hungry silence. After managing to drag Ethan away from the fight, she found refuge in an abandoned resort town. Winter villages, frozen cable cars, empty hotels. A summer playground transformed into an ice mausoleum. She settled him in the basement of one of the houses to protect him from both the infected and human hunters. Ethan was in serious condition. The wound became infected, and he was burning with fever, delirious. For days, Ivy was his only caregiver, a child forced to become a doctor, hunter, and protector. Her diary, in this part, is telegraphic, almost childlike in its simplicity, which makes it even more moving. Day 3, his fever isn't going down. I changed the bandages. Found some canned food in a cupboard in a house. Pea soup. I hate pea soup. Ethan too, I think. He won't wake up. Day 7. Food ran out. Need to hunt. I have the bow and arrow I took from Thomas. Never killed anything bigger than an infected. My stomach hurts. Don't know if it's from hunger or fear. It is here that Ivy's transformation happens. Records narrate her first hunt. She spends an entire day in the frozen forest, following the tracks of a deer. The cold, the fear, and the moment she finally has the animal in her sights. The diary describes her hesitation, the difficulty of taking one life to save another. But she does it. She shoots the arrow. That act, that of becoming a provider, changes everything. She is no longer the cargo. She is the survivor. She cleans the animal, cooks the meat, and force-feeds Ethan, forcing the broth between his feverish lips. She keeps him alive out of pure stubbornness, but medical supplies are another problem. She needs antibiotics, or the infection in Ethan's wound will kill him. And it is in her search for a first aid kit in another house that she finds other survivors. While rummaging through an abandoned veterinary clinic, Ivy is surprised. Two men corner her. One of them is young, named James. The other is older, charismatic. His name is David. The diary describes the encounter with palpable tension. Ivy, with her bow drawn, ready to fight. But David is not aggressive. He is calm, almost paternal. He says he is the leader of a large community of survivors who took shelter in the resort's main hotel. He invites her to join them. No one survives alone in winter, he says. Ivy refuses. Her loyalty is to Ethan. She trusts no one. But David, noticing her desperation, makes an offer. You hunted a deer. I saw the tracks. We have food, but it's scarce. You give us half the meat, and I'll give you a complete kit of penicillin and medical supplies. My group has children, women. The meat will help us a lot. The exchange seems fair. Desperate for the medicine, Ivy agrees. She leads them to where she left the deer. They make the exchange. David hands her a bag full of medication and invites her once again to join them. Think about it, he says. Safety, warmth, food. Bring your friend when he gets better. Ivy returns to the basement, feeling a rare flicker of hope. Maybe she had found good people. Maybe they weren't alone. She applies the penicillin to Ethan, and for the first time in weeks, his fever begins to subside. Exhausted, she finally falls into a deep sleep. She wakes up with a shotgun barrel in her face. David and his men found her. The kindness, the camaraderie, all a lie. They capture her and take her to their camp in the abandoned resort hotel. Ethan is left to die in the basement. It is inside the hotel that the truth about David's community is revealed. Here begins what's truly scary. Ivy _S diary describes the place with horror. There were dozens of people, families, children, and there was food, lots of food. But there were no hunted animals hanging, no crops. And then she sees. In one of the hotel's industrial kitchens, she sees bodies, human bodies, dismembered, treated like cattle. David's community was not of animal hunters. They were cannibals. They survived the winter by luring and hunting other survivor groups. David's offer was not an act of trade. It was a trap. He followed her to discover her hiding place and capture her. What follows in the diary is a fragmented account of an escape thriller. Ivy, trapped, waiting to become the next meal. Her struggle to escape. Her discovery that she was not the only prisoner. And her final confrontation with David in a hotel restaurant, which she herself sets on fire to create a distraction. The narrative culminates in a brutal fight between the 14-year-old girl and the cannibal leader, amidst chaos and flames. David, in his last moments, reveals his terrifying philosophy. In this world, you are the hunter or you are the hunted. I chose to be a hunter, and I did what I had to do to keep my people alive. Ivy barely escapes, leaving the hotel and the community to be consumed by the fire. She runs back through the snow, wounded, traumatized, but alive. She runs back to Ethan. When Ivy returns to the hideout, she finds an awake Ethan, weak but conscious. The penicillin worked. He sees her wounded, in a panic, and the image of his daughter Daisy comes back in full force. At that moment, the diary describes, Ethan's last wall of cynicism crumbles. Ivy is no longer a burden. She is his daughter, and he will protect her with his life. Together, they survive the rest of the winter. And in the spring, they resume their journey. Their relationship has changed. Now there is trust. There is affection. There is a family. They finally arrive at their destination, the Fireflies Hospital, which records indicate to be in Liverpool. The place is a bastion of order and science amidst the chaos. Firefly soldiers welcome them, and they are brought into the presence of Eleanor. The Fireflies' leader congratulates them. Their journey was a legend among the resistance members. She confirms, They have the technology, the doctors. They can synthesize a cure from Ivy's immunity. Humanity is saved. But there is a detail. A last condition. Eleanor takes them to the laboratory, to the operating room, and explains the procedure. The mutated Cordyceps fungus, which generates immunity, grows in the brain. To create the vaccine, doctors need to remove this tissue. The procedure is invasive and irreversible. Ivy would not survive the surgery. The cure for humanity required her sacrifice. Ethan looks at the Firefly's leader, then at Ivy, who is being prepared for surgery, scared, but willing to do what it takes. And Ethan, the man who saw his first daughter die in his arms, is confronted with the most impossible choice a human being can face. The records of what happened next are confused. Conflicting witness accounts, corrupted security footage, but the essence is clear. Ethan made his choice. He did not choose humanity. He chose his daughter. My investigation reconstructed a brutal and silent assault. Ethan, using all his survival experience, neutralized the Firefly's guards. He moved through the hospital like a vengeful ghost. He reached the operating room before the procedure began and confronted Eleanor. She tried to argue with him. Think of all we've lost. Think of all the lives you can save. But Ethan was no longer listening to logic. He was only listening to his broken heart. He killed her, killed the chief doctor, and rescued Ivy, still unconscious from the anesthesia, from the operating table. He carried her out of the hospital, amidst alarms and chaos, and fled in a car. The last scene, described in a final fragment of Ivy's diary, happens on the road days later. She wakes up in the car, confused. What happened? She asks. And Ethan, looking at the road ahead, lies. The heaviest and most terrible lie of all. The Fireflies. They found others like you. Dozens. They already have what they need. They stopped looking for a cure. He lies to give her a normal life, a life without the weight of being humanity's savior. He gives her peace, but robs her of her purpose. And so ends the Cordyceps report, with an act that can be interpreted as the purest love or the deepest selfishness. Did he save his world by rescuing the only human thing left in him? Or did he condemn our world so he wouldn't have to suffer the same loss again? Was Ethan's choice that of a hero or a villain? Perhaps the truth, as always, is that he was both. Leave your opinions in the comments. What would you have done in his place? There is no right answer. And that's what makes this story so powerful. If this two-part journey impacted you, subscribe to the Unseen Archivist channel and hit the bell. As you can see, we are not afraid to explore the most difficult questions. And now, as promised, our next phase begins. We will leave lost worlds behind and investigate the nightmares that were carefully created for us. Our next case reconstruction will take us to an isolated summer camp, a place called the Night of the Blackwell Quarry, where a group of counselors, against the camp owner's orders, decide to stay one more night for a farewell party, and discover that the only thing scarier than the legends told around the campfire is the truth behind them. Thank you for completing this journey with me. Until next time.